Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time since I've been able to make one of these videos for you, but it's finally happening. We finally have some new news to share regarding Riot's future hit MMO, and whether or not it's new team hires, massive spreadsheet documents, hour-long interviews, or even deep-seated copium-fueled speculation, I'm here to share it with you. This is gonna be a long one, and as we move into Riot's historical info drop months, I wanted to make sure we got this one out of the way so we could make room for even more news that we may be receiving in the next couple of months. As always, my name is Spun. I make silly little videos for Riot's future MMO project, gaming, and MMOs in general. If you're a copium-fueled MMO fiend or even just interested in future Riot titles, it would mean the world to me if you could just smash that subscribe button and leave a comment down below letting me know what you're most excited to hear about in the future. And with all that shilling out of the way, let's get right into the real reason you're all here, Riot MMO news. First off, we have a couple new hires coming to work on the Riot MMO. First on the list, we have Camille Sanford filling the position of game producer MMO project at Riot Games. For those of you who may not know, a game producer will manage the team working on the game, play an executive role during each development phase, and ensure the quality and timeliness of the teams working on the project. Camille is coming from Blizzard, where she was previously working on their also untitled survival game project. And before that, she worked as an associate producer on Blizzard's multi-platform card game, Hearthstone. She also has her own portfolio site where she shares some of her interests, which include VR chat and Final Fantasy XIV. Welcome to the team, Camille. Next, we have a QA engineer by the name of Reese Warrender. A quality assurance engineer is a professional who finds and fixes bugs in a product or program before its launch, collaborating with developers on fixes to those problems when necessary. Reese will be applying his 9 years of quality assurance expertise while working on titles at Riot such as Valorant and League of Legends to the MMO project. In the past, he has experience working for Jagex as well in their multi-platform MMO RuneScape. Reese also has his own personal website where he goes over the games he is currently playing. If you're interested in checking his or Camille's websites out, I will include the links down in the bio below. And I think at this time in the video, it would be great for me to introduce you all to a little project I have been working on in my spare time. This project is the culmination of my speculative copium-fueled late nights, and I think a great landing point for many of you that may be interested in seeing a little insight on the MMO. So without further ado, I present to you spun.gg, which at the end of the day just redirects you to a spreadsheet where I have compiled all of the information that we know about the future MMO title, as well as some speculative information as well. We have everything from potential creatures, a list of all the confirmed team members, potential classes, races, and even a small yet ever-expanding frequently asked questions section. I plan on slowly updating and editing the document the further along we get and the more information that is released, eventually launching it into a full-fledged website where we can include all of the information we know, as well as guides and tips for gameplay once we're at that point with the game. But that's the future, so let's get our heads out of the clouds and get our feet back down on solid ground and move into the next section of the video, the hour and 30-minute interview with Riot MMO's game director that came out this past week. First, I did do a full reaction live on Twitch, which I posted the full-length VOD on this YouTube channel as well if you'd like to check that out. But I wanted to take some time and dissect a little bit more from this interview and see what we may have learned from it in a quicker and more condensed version, aka not a 3-hour-long video. Also, this is a
podcast-style interview.
The first interesting tidbit is that Canon had to cut out about 30 to 40 minutes of content. Whether that was because Riot asked him to, or if it was done to make the pacing a little bit better is kind of still up in the air, but it really sounds to me like Riot had their hands in the interview quite a bit. We learned Greg's 3 favorite MMOs, which I promise not to
analyze the crap out of. I mean, World of Warcraft's the easy one. I liked Star Wars Galaxies for the promise it made, which was you can do anything. You want to be a dancer, I think you could be a baker, whatever. You don't have to be a superhero. You could just be a normal person. Ultima Online, I played every Ultima game growing up.
Right.
And that game came out, that was the first real MMO. And then you could debate whether or not it's an MMO or not, but I'm very impressed with Destiny and what Bungie has done with high production values, pretty quick content cadence, and kind of shown that, hey, MMOs don't all have to look the same. Like maybe it's a looter shooter, maybe it's a something else, but I think that kind of shows you that MMOs don't have to just be again, I'm picking my words really carefully here, but You don't have to be a WoW clone to be an MMO. How about that?
We do learn that 1, Greg doesn't know how to count to 3. 2, MMOs are not confined to just WoW clones. And 3, Greg is a big fan of sandbox style MMOs. Regarding classes that we may potentially see in the MMO, he had this to say.
When people ask what kind of classes will we have in the League MMO, the cheap answer I always give, take it or leave it, is look at the kind of champions we have, and you can think about what kind of classes you might turn those into.
To which I'd like to follow up and remind you all that the champions are broken down into controller, fighter, mage, marksman, slayer, tank, and specialist. So do with that information what you will. When going on to talk about camera perspective and its impact on dungeon and raid difficulty, he had this to say.
And I agree with you on the camera angle. Like, part of the challenge we always had on World of Warcraft is when you make a really big boss and then you're a warrior up there fighting it, you see its toe.
Yeah.
And you don't get to see kind of the majesty of the whole creature on screen at once without pulling the camera out. I think it can also help it feel a little more like a battle scene when you can see like lots of people around and get a sense for where you are in the room rather than it just being, oh, I'm just going to beat on this giant bag of hit points in front of me.
But don't get your panties in a bunch, because he did say that WildStar, a third-person MMO that has since been taken down, was
what I wanted in a game.
When asked about the budget he was given for making the Riot MMO,
we're not going to run out of money, right?
And instead that
Riot will cancel this game if the game isn't good enough.
Basically stating that they are going to put as much money as they need into making this the best possible MMO gaming experience imaginable. Now, as far as the juicy topic of monetization, and honestly probably an area of contention for a lot of us, he had this to say.
Generally, if you want to go free to play, it's because you think you can have a lot of players and you'll be okay even if they don't individually spend a lot of money. You'll have a lot of players who spend nothing. You'll have some players who spend more, but on average, you're assuming they're not going to pay that much, and you make up for it with size.
He went on to talk about paying for power, pay to win, and its popularity in Eastern markets. Luckily, he did finish off by adding this.
We're not going to do pay to win. We're not going to do pay to power. I'm pretty confident saying that. The business
that's a big one.
I probably said that, or a lot of players assume it's just not Riot.
Furthermore, he added,
we really want players to feel like they're welcome back in the game at any time. And yeah, if life is rough right now and you're between jobs or you just can't, you can't pay for the subscription, I'd rather them not churn out rather than be able to keep playing. So that's why Riot has traditionally liked free to play with purely cosmetic purchases.
One important aspect to me, and one of the reasons I have not enjoyed a lot of more modern MMOs, is gearing up through enhancing gear. Greg had this to say regarding the topic.
I mean, again, I hate to keep going as an answer, but the reason these problems aren't solved is because there's pros and cons, right?
Absolutely.
I love the moment of like killing the dragon, opening up the chest and like seeing what's inside. It's lame if it's just a bunch of crafting materials.
He also had this to say about winning the lottery while upgrading gear.
I feel like you literally have to win the lottery to get an item. It's like, oh, there's a 1 in a million chance of this item dropping. That's pretty brutal.
A little later on, Greg had this to say about PvP and PvP balance.
Balance thing is so easy compared to balancing PvP. The monster doesn't care if it's stunned for 6 seconds, but 6 seconds is an eternity for a player to be stunned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, PvP is very hard to get right.
Lastly, he was asked about tab target versus action combat.
It's like a lot of my answers. There are, like you said, there's strengths and weaknesses to both. I've probably played more tab targeting games than action games. Maybe it's just because action games haven't had as much time to mature and they'll get there. But a lot of MMO combat is complicated enough that trying to like stay on the target, thinking that someone was in range when they weren't, like those are pretty frustrating moments, and they feel like you're fighting the game versus fighting the enemy or the other player.
And there we have it, all the most recent and interesting Riot MMO related news. Thanks again for coming out to the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit like if you made it this far, and join the various communities listed below to get involved, as well as up to date on all future Riot MMO related news. As always, my name is Spun, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.